to butcher this. Daegu? Daegu?
Shoot. I felt like I knew it until.
Like, come on, English professor. You should have been ready with this.
Yeah, English, not Korean.
Still, whatever. You're always correcting me on how to pronounce stuff and grammar, so I just put all of it in there. But anyway, man, the latest episode of Lovecraft Country, and they
I would pronounce it Daegu.
Daegu? Okay.
Yeah.
So, right, I feel like this is getting ready to start a series of kind of like backstory episodes, which I'm not mad at. Not if they're anything like this one was, because so we finally kind of get the story of who this woman is that Tick has been calling, and just the story of these two, how they met, what's going on, and kind of fills in a little bit more of the overall story of what's happening, and of course just adds a whole new layer to it, because that's just what they do. Like, nothing can be simple with this series at all. So yeah, we kick off where we're in Korea as Tick's in the war. I realized about maybe halfway through when it was like, I don't know how long this, like if this was over a year or whatever. Like I started noticing towards the middle or maybe thirds when it was like fall 1950 or something like that. Or I was like, oh crap, like, because I was just so like, as always, when this thing starts, I'm just like so into it. Like, okay, what does this mean? What am I missing? That and then, finding out that she is this nine-tailed spirit,
a Jinchuriki.
right? Just kind of threw me. So then at this point, I'm not paying attention to the timelines at all. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
And I'm like, anime has completely prepared me for this episode. Like watching Naruto, watching anything that's all subbed, it's like I have no problem with the subtitles. And Eric is like, are we really gonna have to read this whole thing? He's a tailed beast. You don't know what that means, but it's awesome.
You know what? I will. So yeah, I kind of the same thing there. Like, having recently watched Naruto, and the whole tailed beast. So quickly, when she was saying, when they revealed what she was, I think it was the mother who told her what she, and finally said out loud, or not, said out loud to us, right? Obviously they knew, but bringing us into what she was. I quickly Googled it, and just the quick, history behind that, and the myth of this nine-tailed fox and things of that nature. And so that to me was interesting, because again, I feel like, for something like that, especially in this series, like everything has a meaning, right? So like the fact that they're choosing to use this, this mythology, and that this character is who this is, I felt like I just had this feeling as I was watching that it was important. So I started to look into a little bit of the history of it, and I was like, and it was funny. Just when I thought I was like, nah, maybe I'm looking too deep into it, then the episode ends, and I see the preview for Hippolyta, which Jeremy, you had brought up back in the beginning with the whole Greek mythology, and I'm just looking at this preview, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, so yeah, I think there's going to be something to the fact that she's this nine-tailed kind of fox spirit. So, yeah, like just a deep episode again. So I'm gonna get your guys' thoughts, because I'm still kind of putting mine together, because as we're doing this kind of late, like it took me a little while to start watching it, folks. My Lakers are playing tonight. I still haven't seen the Sunday night football game. It was a whole lot going on tonight, so I couldn't debate my Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I had to make sure we won that game before I started Lovecraft, so that's why we're a little late. But yeah, so what you guys have had a little bit more time to absorb it. I'm still very much in the WTF moment that you did right after the episode.
I think that is pretty cool when you break it down to me talking about how I saw those scenes of Hippolyta early on and didn't know how it was gonna sit, and then this mythology. And there was one line that when she was doing the speed dating, and she was telling the one guy about the Judy Garland movies, and he was like, they take everything from us, and here you are taking in this American propaganda. And I just think it's really cool that it feels like we're getting, when a character comes on the scene, mm-hmm. whatever their culture is or whatever they might believe in, we're getting what they believe in. and not whitewashing. Just bring, and then we're learning stuff about other people in their mythology or their
Right.
beliefs, and it's just a lot of culture, not our own. Like the black part was obvious of seeing those main characters, but I just think it's pretty cool to get all this culture and other views from other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, kind of, Erica put it really, really well. I was thinking about similar things, but just how, like, I even turned to you and mentioned at one point, well, if there are still people that are on the fence about this show with that maybe don't like all the racial American stuff, they might be jumping off the bus with this Korean War stuff, because it's one of those things where if you don't study the actual history, you maybe don't realize that we like to see ourselves as the knights in shining armor in every military conflict that we ever have engaged in. And
it's not so.
It's not so. Yeah, we're especially in Korea and in Vietnam and probably even Afghanistan and Iraq for an extent. We are seen pretty much as invaders too.
Right.
Yeah.
And not everybody composes themselves well when they're in a situation with war. And the mom mentioned that they're as bad as the Japanese, and just kind of things like that, and just kind of, I don't know, a little bit of the communist stuff, that there's a little bit of communist sympathies, and that's a huge no-no in America. You can't feel anything for communists. So.
And you know what? Now that it's man, I'm so glad you guys brought up this point and started here, because what I didn't even realize was that, because I felt like they did it so well. Like they literally did take us. Like, I mean, I got it that it was kind of like a flashback of where Tick was in a backstory, but we were literally like in Korea the whole time. So they engulfed us in that entire, that culture, that world. And so, and it, until now, as I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, wow, like they really I felt like they did it so well. Like it didn't seem out of place to me.
Yeah.
Right. Like I just kind of jumped right in, like, here's some new characters, and we're, meeting this mom and a daughter and this best friend and these other people. Like it's like, I wasn't thinking to myself, okay, where's Letty, where's Sepalata? What happened with, like, I wasn't. I was just like, boom. And of course, obviously I think Tick ties it in. But even still, I think it's, we go like 20 minutes maybe before we even see Tick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're just, and again, I go back to what I love about this is like, it's each episode is like its own little thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it's like, okay, each episode is going to be like literally our own little story. And this whole thing is just a collection of stories, and we'll tie it together. But I love how they do that. So, this, obviously a lot of stuff with the culture of Korea, the backdrop of the Korean War. I felt like, and again, I'll go back and watch it again. I feel like there were some undertones in there that, just as to your point, Jeremy, about like kind of knowing the history, just as like we'll pick up on a lot of the undertones, like from other episodes, right? Like the whole little Emmett Till thing or stuff like that, that you just, if you know the history, like you just know, you're like, oh, that's a big thing. It's subtle. I feel like there was a lot here too. But I will be, I don't know much about the Korean War. But there's some things that I picked up on. But I thought in the beginning, like, it was interesting to see, like, as she was kind of, I forgot it's Gia.
Gia.
Yeah. As she's kind of, going off and studying to kind of get this degree, like to go be the nurse and stuff like that. And when they're doing like the little test and they're going through the anatomy parts, and I thought it was going a different direction when all the girls were kind of huddled over on one body. She was over there kind of by herself. And I thought it was like an antagonistic thing between her and who turned out to be her best friend. Yeah. And I just thought, I don't know, I thought it was really weird how.
Ooh, something that I just picked up on as you were talking about that. Mm-hmm. You know how they say, she had mentioned how she was telling her mother that you told me that I couldn't feel emotion.
Mm-hmm.
and then I feel this thing for this man. And I then reverse and I go back to the beginning of the episode, and I wondered why the camera cut down to the girl's ankles. And I really think that Gia the whole time was trying to learn how to be a human, because she had been told this whole time, you're not going to ever be able to feel emotions. So she's watching the Judy Garland movies to try to emulate that. And then she's looking at this woman and all the girls are surrounded by her and she seems to be picking up the men. So let me learn from her since I don't have emotion. So I don't know. It'd be interesting, like going back and watching it with that lens.
Well, and so I took, while I was waiting for you to get done and we were dealing with bedtime or whatever, I took some time and I went back to the beginning of the episode and was kind of like skipping to a couple of different parts. And first of all, I thought it was cool that, so the episode is Meet Me in Daegu. The musical that she was watching at the beginning was Meet Me in St. Louis. So there's, that whole tie in there. And yeah, I there was a girl that I knew a long time ago from Vietnam who, she told me that she had learned English by, like, when her family first immigrated here, she learned English by going to see, I think it was Titanic, like 9,000 times, just sitting in the theater and practicing what they said. But going back to the speed dating piece and realizing what you find out about, like, who she is, what she is, all of those things, and the emotionless part and all that stuff, like feeling extremely awkward and extremely heartbroken for her when all these guys are crossing her number off the list, but then realizing she's not sitting there like awkwardly sad that these men keep not choosing her. That's not why her mother is telling her to bring men home, is to, have a relationship. It's like, there is no emotion. That's where the awkwardness comes from, is that she doesn't have the emotions in that setting. And it was just, it brought a whole different feel to it watching it again.
I mean, so just thinking about it now, like I'm even recalling it like even different, because I was, which I believe they wanted you to, right? I'm just thinking like, I'm like, why does this mom want this girl to bring these men home? Like what, like, and so I'm starting to think, I'm like, okay, they've been disgraced. Right. And I know like in Asian cultures a lot, there's a lot about honor, things like that. So I'm trying to like, I'm grasping at things as I'm looking at this, right? And it turns out like, okay, well, she just wants her to kill all these people. And I'm like,
yeah, I thought, you just got to get married. So they'll invite him over. Oh, no, never mind.
Right. So then it's like, and I love that they started to, so they have this scene when they reveal that she's, not human, like some kind of monster, right? And I'm gonna stick a pin in this, but I want to get back to the word monster, because they use this a lot in this episode, and I thought it was really cool how they did it. But so we figure out that she's something different, whatever. But what I love what they did too was that, again, they don't leave us hanging for too long. Like they just slowly over conversation start to lay out everything that happens, right? So how did she come to be here? Why does she, call her Uma or mother and all these things or whatever? And I thought like one of the scene that got me, that stuck out to me the most was, and this actress like nailed the scene. So as she's in there cleaning up her latest, conquest or whatever, and she's trying, she's, talking to her mother about all this stuff and trying to basically ask her like, well, how do you know I'm going to be your daughter? Stuff like that or whatever. She goes, same things in you. So she starts putting out the candles and starts singing a little song.
Oh yeah.
And, like, this was just like downright almost like evil. Like set up the song. So the mom's like, see, it's in there. And then just like instantly like, boom, like these are the memories from your husband who you summoned me to kill, who was raping your daughter. Cause this is what she sung. I was just like, yo.
And, but because this is what you allow, because you were evil and wrong and you let this happen to your daughter. I was like, dang.
Well, and you bringing up the image of her snuffing out the candles, it's like with that comment, she just completely snuffed out the hope that her mom had. Like just I don't know, that whole flame that she had burning. It's just like, let me just put that out for you. That's why I know.
And the other, I'm glad you brought that up, because I just had written down the whole monster and the bad in all of us. Because the other two scenes that get me with the monster connection are when she's in the street with her best friend right before the hanging, and she's telling her, different is good. You don't have to be ashamed of your different.
Right.
And the scene with Gia and Tick, where she's like, look, I've done bad. You've done bad.
Right.
And for me, it connected to a lot of what's going on in the world today and just how polarizing a lot of things are. And I find myself, there are some people I've just like X in my life, and I'm like, I just don't have time. But then there are some people where you just go, listen, none of us are perfect. And how do we get to a place to where we can kind of see where we've all made mistakes, but then kind of extend grace. So I just pulling that into just what's going on today stuck out to me, the monster storyline.
Yeah, the scene that really stuck out to me was like, so the scene outside. So after, the first time she brings him home, or thinks she was going to kill him, and then figures out she has feelings for him, right? Sends him out. So that next day or whatever, the next scene where she's at camp, right? And so they're having that dialogue, and she's like, "You've done monstrous things. I've done monstrous things, but we can choose to see the people,
like the good,
the people that we see in each other."
Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was like, to me, instantly connected with, okay, like it's this whole tone of like, if I started thinking about all the characters that we've seen, right? We've seen like they quickly set up, this is who this character is, and we're going to set some real characteristics around it. Like, so we instantly don't trust Christina. We they just really did a good job of setting this up. Montrose, we knew that there was something with him, like all these things or whatever. And I feel like that scene to me, and why they kept saying monster, because we look at all these different characters, it's like, but it's all about perspective and what you choose to see, right? So even back to Atticus's bloodline and the Braithwaites and what they're trying to do, like all these different things, like they've set up as these monstrous things, even back to when we first started, right? Like the monsters in the woods versus the monsters that were the people, like the racist cops are trying to kill. Like, it's just, I don't know. So that really struck a chord to me when they were just, that scene kind of like hit all of it. I was like, wow, like they're really tying into this thing on the monsters thing. So that was,
well, even with Tick, there was a moment where I said, oh man, I knew it was looming that he had done some things in the war that he wasn't proud of. But I was like, we have decided that Tick is a good guy. I do not need to see anything that changes my mind.
Well, even when like that first scene where it's the lead interrogator or whatever, he shoots the first nurse, his gun jams on the second one, he calls somebody over, and it's Tick, and he marches right up like he's the dang Terminator, and just but just the fact that like he's so unfeeling and so not Tick in that moment that it was really interesting to see in the same episode that whole demeanor of just, I am not who, I am the monster in war, melt away to his human side. And just I think Dave, you've mentioned before, just the incredible acting among the entire cast. And I remember at one point Erica's like, I don't think I like this, because now all of a sudden Letty has competition, because we're so much
as far as Gia is concerned. Gia is, I don't like Gia, okay? Freaking Gia's like,
you can't help you watch this episode and it's like, oh man, the chemistry there, like just I don't know how they've gotten everybody that just can interact and have just such a spark among all of them,
right?
Because usually there's at least somebody in a show that's like, I just don't believe you at all,
right?
And so far, it's like everybody's just
the casting director, like whoever they are, shout out to you, because nailed it, right? Like everybody in this series so far is earning every penny of their checks, because this is like, I mean, and it's that last statement, like you believe all of them, right? Like you believe all of them, which I think is what any actor or actress really wants when they're doing a role, is like you just believe them. And I look, I stand, like I believe all of them.
I mean, when she says, "I was going to kill you," and I decided not to. And like, you killed my best friend. I was going to kill you. I decided not to. That's that whole, we can choose to be the people we see in each other line. And just, I believed her. I'm like, you're right. Every word is true.
So let's talk about the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, it keeps popping up.
Cause it's Montrose's favorite book. I don't know anything about the story. I've never read it. Jeremy, I know you're going to nerd out on this one, but and I was like, okay, like I obviously I remember coming up when they were going to go save him. Uncle Joseph bringing it up as his favorite book. He does a little escape thing, and now it comes up again as they're reading it.
We're reading the comment.
Oh man, I have not even this entire time. I'm going to kill you. I mean, look, this is how we do it on the recap show, right? Whoever Facebook user is, I don't know why we can't see who they are, but Facebook user, this is what we do. So this one where they really dove into it as Tick and Gia are kind of talking about the story and how it should be played out. And I didn't get all of it, but like, obviously he was like, can you read this to me? She tells him the end, what happens. And then he comes back and says something about it to convince her to read it again. Cause it was like, I guess there were some changes.
Well, basically he tells her like, you haven't read this. You've seen the movie, cause that's not how it really ends.
Yeah,
so he gives it back to her.
There's a classic movie version and then there's a late 90s movie version. And both of them completely changed the ending of the story. So yeah,
like a lot of movies do. Yeah. They're not exactly like the book.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, I'm going to lean on you for this. Like, what is it about this book and the story that they may be trying to right here?
Unfortunately, I haven't made a 100% connection to it yet. I wish I had something deep and profound to say about, this is what they're trying to say. Maybe if I talk through it a little bit, you two can kind of help me.
Give us the brief, like the general.
So it's one of the greatest revenge stories of all time. It's about a young man named Edmond Dantes. He came from nothing. He's earned his way to where he's about to be named a ship's captain. And the first mate for the captain that's about to promote him, and like one of their 2 or 3 of their major business partners, and one of his
some people,
a nobleman that's jealous of his life, they plot this whole thing to set him up as a criminal. He gets tried and convicted, just trumped up charges, crooked attorney, all this stuff. And he gets sent to the Chateau d'If, which is this giant prison out in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean or Mediterranean Sea where there is no escape.
Shoot, listen, you want to say you don't see no connection yet? Did you not see the future vision of Tick? And he's trapped in something. He's dripping. Like, I would not be surprised if the storyline of this book is the storyline of this show.
And that's why in episode 2, when they finally go into the tower where they're suspecting Montrose is being held, and they mention the Count of Monte Cristo, because in it, when he's in the Chateau d'If, he meets this other prisoner who's been digging a tunnel out for decades, and he teaches him to read, he trains him to fight, he trains him to be like a nobleman and to masquerade as these people that think they're his betters, so that when he gets out, he can find the lost treasure of Monte Cristo or whatever that that's going to make him wealthy beyond any wildest dreams. And so when Montrose has tunneled out of the tower, and pops up out of the ground. That's basically what Dantes did, kind of, to get out of the Chateau d'If. There's a lot more to it.
Maybe it's just like an ongoing, like.
Yeah, they just mention it. They mention it so often that
I'm seeing the whole setup with like. So there's two things, right? I think so. I still think Montrose knows more than he's let on so far. I'm hoping at some point we get back to that. So as you're explaining that, what I'm thinking is this is all about the setup of Tick. And to Erica's point, when we saw the vision, and her saying you're going to die, and we see him. We go back to this. There was a lot of stuff in that vision. I'm like, wait, what? But we knew that. Excuse me. So we knew that she had seen something because she told him not to go home. I told you not to go home. The first time in the episode when he called back, right? So now we know that it was she saw him die. They went back to, and I may be confusing these, but I know back in the previous episode when he looks at his ring, right, and he decodes the message or whatever that it was die. So then he calls her back or whatever. So I think what this whole thing is, like Montrose was upset that he came to save him because I think Montrose knows that they are setting him up. Like this whole thing with Tick and his birthright and all this stuff or whatever is to set him up to get to something, and then he be the sacrificial lamb for them to get to whatever they want. Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm kind of making a connection around there.
Yeah.
And kind of to that point, when Dantes gets out of the Chateau d'If, he finds the treasure and he establishes the identity as the Count of Monte Cristo, and he uses the rest of his life to set up everybody that had plotted against him. And he spends these elaborate schemes to very publicly destroy their lives and take away everything that they have, just like they took away what he had.
Right.
And so, interesting. You talking about, Montrose maybe thinking that they're trying to set Tick up and wondering if Tick is going to end up being able to turn the tables and on the plotters against him and destroy them. He kind of did already in episode 2 with the majority of the sons of Adam or whatever it was. Right. Go ahead. You were going to say. Okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, so that's maybe something to look at.
Yeah. So this is. I'm gonna of course do more research. I want to dig into this. I think because there's another. There's another thread there that. When did he? This had to be last episode, and maybe we didn't talk about it. But there is a scene where Tick falls asleep, and he has a dream that he's running back out of the house.
Yes,
and he sees his ancestor with the book. Like she's saying something to him, and then he gets set on fire.
Yeah,
and then he wakes up. Yeah, that was the last episode.
Yeah,
and so I feel like there's a thread there of connecting back to how this whole thing started, right? Back to Braithwaite sleeping with, Tick's, great, I guess, grandmother. And the whole, I think there's more to that story, to the fact that I don't think it was an accident that this whole thing happened. I think it was, as I think we're going to find out with Hippolyta, I think it was, his ancestors knowing more about what was going on or having some kind of connection and doing that purposely to set them up to try and, take down whatever this establishment was going to be. And so I think there's some kind of connection there that I'm anxious to see more of, because I think it kind of fills in the details of who this line of his family is and what this is all about, and why Christina kind of is on this rampage to kind of do some of the things that she's doing. So, interesting. So kind of off on a tangent outside of this episode, but I think for me, I want to get to the vision. Before we get to the vision, I want to go to the ending with the shaman or shaman, and Gia and her mom and the whole little fox, that thing was weird, right? Her staring at the fox staring at her. Like, I was like, okay, something gonna happen here.
No, they're just connected. She's
Right.
a fox. It's a fox.
Spirit fox. I don't know. I thought the fox was gonna speak or something. I don't know. I was just like, this is interesting.
Shed a tear.
Right. So the biggest and this is literally when I texted you, Jim, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, WTF was. So she asked, is Atticus going to die? And there's two things that she said there that were confusing. She was like, the reason you're asking these questions is the same reason you call your mother or something like that or whatever. And I was just kind of like, okay, don't really know what that means. And then the last one was like, you've not yet connected to the darkness. You will see many deaths before you are done with your journey.
Yes.
And my mind, and so the reason I told WTF, because I really felt like I was like, she just straight did a Jesus moment where, like, in the Bible, every time somebody asks Jesus something, it's like, Jesus, how do I get from A to B? So the color blue is never quite red until the sun. What are you talking about, man? Like, and I felt like that was what this was. It was just like, I just want to know if Atticus is going to die. Like, you will see many deaths before your journey into the dark. Like, wait, what?
I wonder if the first part of that comment, what her response about the same reason you want to call this woman your mother.
Right.
Is just something about that. Is there something to the fact that she is feeling emotion? Like, is that not supposed to happen?
Right.
And it's happening. And so now the shaman's like, what the heck is that? And then I was thinking Gia has to now be a part of this crew that's going forth to figure all this out because she can see the future. She has his memories. So now I feel like we got to get a dang love triangle, and Letty about to be mad because Gia gonna have to come because she got all the visions, so we know how to dodge dying.
This is
just my take.
And to your point about the ambiguity in the answer, like that's a very classic mythological priestess thing too. Like in Greek mythology, you've got the oracle at Delphi that I don't know why people kept asking her questions because she never gave them answers that helped, and then trying to interpret her answer always ended up screwing up everything that they like. Oedipus Rex.
But did it?
Oedipus Rex in Oedipus Rex, he's the guy that killed his father and married his mother. Before he was born, his dad went to the oracle and asked a question, and she said, "Oh, so your son is going to kill his father and marry his mother." And so they're like, nope. And they send him off to die. He doesn't die. And he's raised by people in like 2 towns over.
Wait,
here's
you're
the same.
Your point wrong.
No.
The oracle was right.
No. Yeah, it was, but not because Oedipus. Like, so this is my point. He is raised by people who are legitimately strangers to him as his mother and father. He goes to the oracle, asks a question because he's hearing some rumors that he's not. He hears rumors that he's not his father's son, and he goes and he says, "Am I my father's son?" And the oracle says, "You're going to kill your father and marry your mother." Well, that's not really the question that I asked, but no, I'm not. So he never goes home. He runs into an old man on the road. They have beef.
Dave, come get your friend.
He kills him. He continues on to the next town. He saves the town from a curse.
His father and marries his mother.
He already killed his father. He goes to the town to save the town from a curse. Thank you. I'm spitting knowledge. He goes to town and saves the town from a curse. And then, as a reward, they say, "Well, we're missing our king. Why don't you marry the queen and you be the king?" Ends up that the old man that he killed on the road was his dad. The queen
I said that 5 minutes ago. And point is, shaman is right, and the people interpreted that it doesn't make any sense.
But so Oedipus only fulfilled the prophecy because he was trying to run from it.
From the same, right. It's the anti thing, right? So the oracle tells you something that forces you to go down the path that they want you to go. But yeah, it's the whole.
She really doesn't love me. She just.
The trick that you tell your parents is like, don't go to bed. Well, fine, I'm gonna go to bed. Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So when we go back to the vision, which I thought was interesting. So you mentioned love triangle, and it actually may be a love rectangle, because did y'all notice there was a love scene with
There was somebody in the bed with
somebody who was not letting.
You didn't notice that?
With who?
With Tick.
No. Like, so when she sees the vision, first she sees Tick torturing her best friend, pulling a tooth out. Then right before it goes to the scene of him getting the bus ticket and going to Chicago, there's a scene of him in the bed rolling off of a woman who's dark skinned. And they cover, and I went back because I was like, who is this? I want to see who it was. They cover her face, so we don't know who it is.
Oh, see, he was pulling teeth the scene before, so I had turned away. Yeah. So I didn't see it.
So.
Okay.
And I was confused because I thought, is this still, she's seeing everything that he's done? And in that moment, it's like, well, did he lie about being a virgin? And so that's when it hit that it was future.
And so that's what I thought too. I thought it was the first time because I had to go back and watch that vision again. So the first time that she was going through, I thought it was, here's all the things that led up to this. So that's what I was thinking too. It was like, oh, well, he wasn't really a virgin. But then as it started going through, and when she said, like, I saw you die, you can't go home, I was like, no. So this, you saw the past and up to, and then go into the future. And so there's something before he leaves. So if I look at that timeline of it, right, like it's kind of it started in the past. He was part torturing the best friend, gets to this love scene with whoever this woman is, and maybe it's just he decides to leave something before he leaves Korea or something like that or whatever. But then you see him getting back to the States, I'm assuming, because he's paying for his bus fare, gets a ticket, there's a bus that says Chicago, and then it's him being there is Letty. He does see Letty.
There's a vision of Letty.
There's a picture of Letty. There's him like getting baptized or something. Him getting dumped. He's got like a white robe. So which I thought was interesting. And then the scene where he's like attached to something and seems like he's gonna die. So there's a lot in there. I thought it was gonna end with him calling her, saying, "What are you? Like, how did you know?" So I was kind of disappointed that it didn't end there. At least I thought so. Well, at the time, I thought we'd see the shaman thing, then him call, like them fast forward, him call, she say a little bit more, cliffhanger, going to the next season. So, because now I'm kind of confused as to where the timeline is when she's going to this shaman thing. Go ahead, E.
Yeah. I mean, I think he knows, like, especially with all the knowledge he has now, I think he doesn't know what she saw, but I mean, he saw the tails and he saw, the attachment. And so I think he definitely knows that she knows stuff, but he ran and didn't want to hear because he was scared, out of his mind, like what just happened. So yeah, I'm not, I definitely agree that calling her to maybe say, all right, I'm ready to know more, but he knows she's different and all that. Yeah.
I mean, look, anybody's going to run. Like, tails start coming out, and I'm, look. Well, and it's I don't funny. Want to hear no explanations. Ain't nothing you can tell me right now. Just look
in the recap at the beginning of the episode, when he mentions to Letty that he had a girl in Korea, and he's like, it ended strangely. It's like, that's the understatement of the season,
right?
That she lifted you up with all 9 of her tails and slung you around a little bit. That's
probably was going down. Like, it ended strangely. I'm trying to think anything else that stood out from this episode. I thought that, so I immediately got the Americanized movies, and just the attachment to that, and either learning English or just kind of like there's always this fascination with foreign films, like no matter where we are, like, so I thought that was pretty interesting. I felt like the whole Judy Garland thing was a thing. I don't know enough about like I can't stand like those old classic movies anyways. I was just kind of like whatever, Judy Garland, whatever.
I,
Um,
I don't know that there's any more to that than what Jeremy had mentioned about just that
me
that is a very common way that non-English speaking people will learn how to speak English
right.
and will learn how to, assimilate and all of those things.
Did you know? Real quick, Jeremy. Sorry. Like in the end, so when she's walking in the snow with her mom, getting ready to go to the shaming, there's a voiceover. Does anybody know who that is? I felt like
I was trying to put in a part of the quote into the Googles and see if it pulled up anything, but I couldn't. The line that I picked didn't come back with any hits.
Okay.
And I guess it would be interesting to go back and see, were the lines in the Judy Garland movies, like, were there particular parts of the movie that are pertinent to, because that's happened several times.
Yeah, right.
Where whatever's playing in the background definitely
Yep.
has something to do.
Yeah. What were we going to say, Jeremy?
Just how it's weird that I read somewhere, I think last week, about how L. Frank Baum, the author of The Wizard of Oz, wrote some really gross arguments for Jim Crow laws and segregation and stuff back in the day. And Judy Garland's most well-known role was as Dorothy Gale in the original Wizard of Oz. I don't know if there's a connection there with why they, like, she was the Hollywood starlet that was so singled out or what. But yeah, that was an interesting coincidence.
I'll have to go back and look at that. Because and it might have just been that was, I mean, she just might have been the it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or at that time for what they're setting. So, so let's talk about, and we can wrap up with this one. Let's talk about the, Hippolyta's episode, right? Which from the preview looked like this is all her episode, right? Like it's just, and I don't know I don't know what's expected where they're taking it, right? So we see some scenes of her, kind of looks like, back in ancient times, maybe it seems like to me they were setting up that, she kind of has past lives that she lived. I thought the most interesting thing was at the very end, the last thing that we see is her playing with the little.
Yeah, it's opening.
Yeah. So that's part of my theory. And this was just on the fly as it happened. They talked about the orrery being a key, right? It unlocks something. They need it. She has it. And so when she was sitting there and it was going through all these flashes of these different lives, it shows her, and the whole thing is turning. And I'm wondering if it's something to do with like alternate timelines, alternate realities, different worlds where she is different people, but she's always Hippolyta, and it's connecting to like the mythological aspect and the, whatever. So, and then, it's opening, and what kind of journey is it going to take her on? Why did they talk about it as being dangerous for regular people? I think in that episode, but yeah, just something to do with like a alternate reality, alternate timeline.
Yeah, I think it's in. We've said it before. I think she's a main piece to this whole story. I think whatever her backstory is that kind of connects her into this, I think is going to be kind of really like critical to the rest of how this kind of plays out. Like, if it's like, go ahead.
Like one of those characters where they've been wrecking their brains this whole time to figure stuff out, and they keep like, that one character keeps trying to say, hey, and they're like, whatever. And then finally we're going to find out that like she held so much information and she knew so much of what George was doing anyway. Because that, like I told you, that first episode, she told him, I can go this time. And It just always felt like to me, they were really in sync. She knew what he was doing, but they made everybody else think that she was playing dumb and like she didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, and her fascination with the stars too, like that.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah, they did kind of they have set her up so far as kind of like just the like the side character, like just okay, it's just Hippolyta, like she just you know, um, so yeah, it's gonna be, and I could just the way they shot these this preview, like, and it was just her. I know she said I am Hippolyta like in different scenes, and each one like she was looked like she was a warrior, the one she was like a dancer, like you know what I mean. So it was just kind of like I feel like this whole episode coming up is like no, this like Hippolyta is
Right.
almost to the point like a main character. I feel like even if it's not necessarily her character that's the main thing. I think whatever she represents, I think is like a missing piece to all of this. Because somehow I feel like if this is all, her connection to these different lives that she's had, and somehow she can access that.
Yeah.
Like I think that like her power, that ability is going to be what connects them all. Christina would want it, and then it's going to help Tick to be able to say she can be like the guy to connect you to your ancestors and this line of things or whatever, and just kind of fill in some holes. I could be reaching there or whatever, but I don't know. I saw the preview and I was like, okay, I'm excited. I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, that's the clip. Whatever I saw early on, it must have been like a series clip.
Right.
That's the preview that I saw. Yeah.
And hopefully we get some of Diana as well, because like I feel like this should be the Hippolyta and Diana episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be happy with that. But that is because this is 6, 7.
Yeah, we got 4 episodes left, and it just seems like more and more doors are opening, and nothing's getting closed. So, what kind of cliffhanger are we on the hook for?
I'm gonna say I'm not ready for this series finale, y'all. I don't think I can handle this thing because every episode I'm.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're gonna do the whole like Game of Thrones thing where episode 9 is where all the just jaw-dropping wow moments happen, and then episode 10 ties up some loose ends and then sets you up for the next season. And they better not take as long to come out with season 2 to do with some stuff.
Yeah,
I know it'll be next year, but still,
there's only so much they can do
next year.
Which is also, which is interesting given the time that they released this. Well, no, I guess, production takes a while. So they clearly shot all of this before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
It seems like about that timeline that they would have finished all this up.
Yeah, because I remember hearing about it back before the world shut down. Yeah.
I ain't hear about anything. This thing just,
well, what the delays will be in moving forward, because even all like the fall shows and things are a little bit delayed because of COVID. So
definitely,
I'm excited. Like I don't want it to end, but like I'm okay if we have a break, as long because some other things are coming that I want to watch, and I gotta sleep at some point in my life.
Well, yeah, I'm just with me, it's just mostly sports. Like this is like I'm gonna still be up for another hour and a half because I want to watch the Carolina and Seattle game, which I don't know what happened. So
you mean New England? Cam Newton's not in Carolina anymore, Dave.
Damn it. You know what I meant. New England, Seattle, whatever. Yeah. Another great episode. Bunch of WTF moments. I will probably watch it again tomorrow. And then we'll get back together for the next episode next Sunday. Any final thoughts, you two?
I have to say that the only thing the episode was missing was Letitia effing Lewis. Not enough Letty for me. So
you gotta give everybody their shine, man. I gotta give everybody their shine.
Letty with a baseball bat was conspicuously absent.
Yes.
All right, folks. Well, we'll wrap up. Thanks everybody for joining us. Please make sure to tune in next week, same time. And this time I will actually put up the event ahead of time so we can actually send it out and people can get reminded. But until then, everybody stay safe. Have a good night. We'll see y'all later.
See y'all.